Well, 'tis Monday. Monday means chapter day. Chapter day means Monday. And yeah, all of the above. We're going with it. Anyway, we are on chapter 8 of Reaper Adventures Freedom. And so you know, you really don't want to bring your kids because he's not kid friendly. There's no sex scenes or curse words, even though I kind of curse a lot. They're not in the story, so yeah. No sex scenes, no curse words, but there are one or more scenes of scary creature violence, mentions of DON behavior, which is more scary creature violence, trial scene for the Archangel Michael and Prince Lucius of the Angelic Order, which we already passed, so... Yeah, a murder scene by the demon and a mention of theft, so it's not kid-friendly. Don't bring your kids. Fur babies are inevitable. And by fur babies, I think we all know what fur babies means. So, we're in chapter 8. Chapter 8 is kind of a no action scene chapter, but it is a little, yeah, you get to know a character. That's about it. Kind of, yeah. Anyway, moving on. We're on chapter 8. So, chapter 8. Continuing. Nathaniel had felt the shift in the natural order, instantly knew the Nephilim had awakened again, and quickly made sure he created a seal to hide the Nephilim and whatever allies he had with him. He was on the roof of the historical church in Jeromson, looking at the sky and the clouds creeping across the moon in silence. He hoped he had made the seal in time and was keeping watch on the sky to make sure no member of the Angelic Order would find the Nephilim or the Nephilim's potential allies if they entered the human realm. Because, yeah, that can happen. Technically, angels are not of this world, so... Moving on. Nathaniel kept watch through the night, moving every once in a while to check other areas of the sky. The sun was rising when Nathaniel took flight, and he made it home just as the sun reached the horizon. He had made the seal just in time. Nathaniel made himself coffee and took a sip when it was finished and began to eat the breakfast he had made. He finished his breakfast in silence and sighed when he realized that today was a day in town. Shopping for food was required, as well as checking in with Contessa. Now, if you don't remember who Contessa is, listen to book number 1. Yeah, she's in book number 1. So, Contessa to make an appointment for a haircut later in the year. Social interaction, as much as Nathaniel disliked it, was also required. He could feel the start of much-needed change for scenery creeping along the edge of his mind like an unwanted and oversized insect. Because that can happen too. And that's annoying. That's always annoying when that happens, just like... Anyway, moving on. Nathaniel finished his coffee, mumbled something incomprehensible, even to himself, sighed with annoyance, and got ready to go to Jeromson. Yay! He made it to Jeromson and made an appointment with Contessa. She gave him an appointment card with a pointed stare. That pointed stare basically says, "Don't you miss it." But he tends to miss his appointments for haircuts, so... Nathaniel took it and put it in his wallet, readjusted his sunglasses that hid the fact his eyes were sewn shut from Contessa's other customers, and left the Italian diva's hair, hoping no one wanted to talk, because, ew, socialization. Ew, people. I should really have a shirt like that just says, ew, people. That would so be me. Moving on. As much as Nathaniel knew social interaction was needed, he really had no intention of starting a conversation or having a conversation with any of the desperate females in Italian diva's hair. Some of them are a little desperate. Some of them not so much. Moving on. Mom, Contessa's son called. He noticed Nathaniel. Hey, Nathaniel. he greeted with a wave, and then realized that Nathaniel hadn't wanted to linger. He gave an apologetic grin when Nathaniel looked at him. One of Contessa's newer customers took the presented opportunity and began to speak to Nathaniel. Contessa looked at her son and raised an eyebrow. Raven headed over to where Nathaniel and his mom's newer customer was and put an arm around Nathaniel's shoulders. "Come on, you need to walk me to work," Raven said, falsely reminding Nathaniel of this. "'Cause you people, oh, I messed up. Oopsies. Better go fix that." Moving on. I almost spilled my caffeinated deliciousness. That would suck. Nathaniel gratefully let Raven lead him out of Italian Diva's hair and let Raven ramble as he walked with Raven to Jerome's Mall. Spikes and Chains was where Raven worked, and Nathaniel had his fill of social interaction by the time Raven entered his workplace. Oh my god, talking. Unfortunately, Nathaniel still had to go grocery shopping. That's what happens when you don't go in town too much to errands. You have a lot of stuff to do, and it's annoying. Moving on. Excuse me, I burped. Wow. He reluctantly went inside the Two Trees, which is their grocery store, and began his shopping. He finished his grocery shopping, made small talk with the cashier, and gratefully left after paying for his groceries. I don't know if I'm mumbling on these, but we're just hoping that they're enunciated enough. He had more than enough of people for quite some time. He took the bus to the stop closest to where he resided and went home. He put his groceries away and began to make something to eat for dinner. He took his sunglasses off and gratefully stretched his wings when dinner began to slowly cook. Mind you, he really cooks the old-fashioned way. In a big iron pot over a fire. So he really cooks the old-fashioned way. And it turns out really good. It's got to. If you know how to do it right, that is. Anyway, moving on. I'm rambling now. Okay. He turned his attention from the forest surrounding his home to the sky. He was silent as the sight from his third eye, which is the eye on the forehead, in case we don't realize, allowed him to see the clouds threatening rain. Yay, rain! I love rain. With a sigh, he shifted his gaze to the 3 rose bushes that had started to grow. He had planted them there years ago and had tended to them ever since. This is kind of really sad part, but I did warn you that you're getting to know somebody. I did not say it was a happy chapter. So we're continuing now. His wife, son, and unborn were buried underneath them. Ouch. No can do. Sorry. I'll watch your live later. Missy on TikTok. Moving on. Normally, Nathaniel would have tended to the rose bushes with a simple seal. He had decided not to tend to them that way, though. Instead, Nathaniel tended to them the way his wife had taught them. Hard work, a lot of love, and making sure he had plenty of patience. Sometimes that does not happen. Nathaniel hadn't understood why people enjoyed gardening at first. It wasn't until recently when Nathaniel finally understood the feeling of accomplishment when the flowers bloomed and grew, why people toiled, sweated, and lost patience that they continued to garden. 'Cause yay, gardening! I actually do enjoy gardening, I'm just not that good at it, and I don't have a lot of patience, so. The hard work was always worth the reward. Agreed to all of the above? Yeah, it's gotta come down a little bit. I mean, all, but Nathaniel glanced at the sky again and felt the incoming storm in the air. He went inside, checked on dinner and stirred it, and went outside to protect the delicate buds from the incoming storm. He carefully draped the net over them and went back inside after a quick weeding, because it's a garden, it's got weeds. That doesn't mean that all the weeds that you think are weeds are weeds. Some of them, actually a lot of them, are more herbs than weeds. But it's good to do research on that. So, He made it inside just as the sky opened up, drenching the ground with torrents of rain. Nathaniel was glad he had decided on a warm meal for dinner and ate it when it was finished. Listening to the sound of the rain when he finished eating. That sounds a lot better than what I had written down there. Nathaniel finished his meal, which we all know he did, cleaned his bowl and spoon, and went outside. The fine, lightweight mesh net had saved his delicate roses from being pulverized, and it allowed them to still get water. Because water is important for flowers and every living thing. Soda. Yeah, moving on. Water. Okay. Nathaniel waited some time before removing the net from the roses and continued weeding them. He hadn't been able to complete this task and did this, whispering random encouragements to the roses. Because actually, that really does help them grow if you just talk to them in a positive manner. It helps a lot of things grow. Plants and a lot of people's emotions too, if you really think about it. Moving on. Eventually, though, even with the whispered encouragements and conversations with the rose bushes, the dark, yawning pit of grief rose to the surface, wrapping a tight hand around Nathaniel's voice and throat. Because his family's buried underneath these rose bushes, mind you, on that, because, yeah. I'm not going to try to imitate a very sad voice. I'm just going to read it as it is, because sometimes emotions suck. So moving on. I love doing this. I do, Nathaniel managed to say, his voice cracking with the tears he was about to shed. I wish I could do this without feeling this, Nathaniel continued, somehow holding back his sobs. After that statement, though, he could no longer hold back his silent cries of grief. The tears that were always difficult to shed finally managed to trickle down his face, falling from his eyes that were forever sewn closed. I mean, that's really kind of crappy. Yeah. Screw your message from the dark side, I don't want to hear it. The phone. Samantha's phone. Moving on. We're almost done. I told you it was a short chapter. Nathaniel slowly regained his composure, took a few shuddering breaths, and completed weeding the rose bushes in silence. Maybe one day I will be able to visit the memories shared with you, our son, and our unborn without pain. Until then, I apologize for crying while tending to the plants you always loved, Nathaniel whispered as he straightened, wiped the dirt off of his clothes, and then went back inside to dry himself and change his clothes, because clothes would be wet due to ground being wet from the rain. So, continuing, Nathaniel did this in silence and eventually fell asleep. I put feel asleep instead of fell asleep, but I knew what I was writing. My hand just got faster than my brain, and eventually fell asleep, his thoughts with his deceased family and with pain. And that is the end of chapter 8. And that song really doesn't go, but that is the song that is playing. And we're on chapter 9 for next week, and we finish chapter 8, and that'll be next Monday. Do you all every chapter, every Monday? No double special. So, moving on. I have some accounts if you are all interested. I have a Wattpad account, which is at Tempesta771. A TikTok account, which is at AirdrainCraven2. No uppercase or space. I think you can find under the name Tempesta Braveheart. I really don't know. Don't quote me. I have an Instagram account, which is Tempesta Braveheart. No uppercases or spaces. Or you can maybe look for it under the name AirdrainCraven, which is the same as my Facebook. But if you're really kind of creepy and I don't know you that well, I'm going to block you because creepiers be creepy and yeah. I also have a Snapchat under the same name as my Facebook, which is AirdrainCraven, except my Snapchat has no uppercases or spaces. And we're watching my YouTube, which is under the name Tempesta Braveheart. So that's that. It was a short chapter. It was a kind of sad chapter. You got to know a little bit about one of the characters that's more important later on than he is now. But moving on. I gave you the little don't bring your kids and the reasons why. I gave you my accounts. And next chapter, which is chapter 9, is next week because we finished chapter 8 for this week. So, yay! Anyway, peace out, Girl Scouts, and enjoy the mental hilarity.